A very good afternoon to all the Node.js enthusiasts and faculty members. We welcome you all to the most awaited event of Fortnite, a workshop on Node.js conducted none other than Rishabh Shroff. His LinkedIn bio describes him as a coder looking for challenging problems to solve. We are so glad to have him here with us. Get your laptops and notepads ready for this informative session. I'd like to request Rishabh to take over the stage.
Hello guys. Can someone confirm if I'm audible?
Yes,
Hello.
Rishabh, you're audible.
Yes, thank you. So, without wasting any time, we'll start with JavaScript first. So, I'll start sharing my screen and I'll start explaining the basics of JavaScript. After that, we'll start with Node. So, can I get the count of number of FEs in the meet? Hello.
Yeah, just a second. Rishabh, our crowd consists of essentially a lot of second years and third years and a very few number of FEs.
Okay. So, can I assume that most of you guys know how to write and C? Like, since most of the people are from second years.
Yes, I guess we are good to start off with that.
Okay, so I'll just quickly go through the basics of JavaScript and then we'll start with Node. Okay. So, guys, basically, JavaScript is used in browsers, but nowadays, a, a guy started a framework called as Node, which basically runs your JavaScript onto your PCs, and basically you can run server-side codes using it. So now using JavaScript, you guys can basically run server-side codes, create web applications, create desktop applications, create mobile applications, and there are a lot of uses of JavaScript. So um, basically, it is a very useful language. So in JavaScript you can define variables using three ways. Either you can use keyword let, you can use keyword var, or you can use keyword constant. So there are difference between these variables. Whenever you define a variable using the keyword constant, you cannot change its value. So if you, let's say, define constant x equals to 0, sorry, is my screen visible? Hello.
Yes, Rishabh, your screen is
Okay, thank you.
visible.
Thank you. So basically, whenever you define a constant value, let's say x equals to 0, so you cannot reassign it a new value. Its value is constant throughout the uh, execution of the code. So whenever you define a constant, you cannot change its value. If you define a type of variable of var and you assign a value to it, you can reassign its value. Okay, and the difference between a var type and a type let is that var can be defined again and again. Like, let's say var x equals to 0, I can again define var x equals to some value as 10 and so on. But if let's say if I define it as of type let, I cannot reassign variable x as like this. This is not allowed in when you use let. Okay. So this is the basics of defining the variables. So basically, in JavaScript we do not have any data types. Like in C, we used to have data type as integer, as string, and all. In this, we do not explicitly specify the data types. Over here, we directly assign the value, and it assumes whatever the data type is. Okay. So basically, uh, basically we define variables on the go. And so now let's start with like in to define functions in JavaScript. we use either keyword function and the name of the function, let's say name, and then like this. So this is how you define a function inside JavaScript. And there's another way also, by using a variable name. So let's say you want to define a function using a variable name. You can also define it using like this. Let's say constant some name of the variable equals to, and then you can use arrow notation like this. Even this is a function. This is called as arrow function, and the previous one that I showed was a normal function. Okay, so can anyone tell me if there are any doubts so far? Like, okay, so I'm assuming there are no doubts so far. Um, so next, basically, this is how you define a function, and that's all the basics that we need for now. Rest regarding JavaScript, I will teach you as we move forward with Node.js. So now let's start with Node. Uh, yeah, so can anyone tell me something about Node? Like anyone? Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, Rishabh, you're audible.
Okay. So I'm assuming no one knows anything about Node. So basically, Node.js, as I said before, it is nothing but a code written in C++ that executes the JavaScript code. So a person started this runtime environment, and what he did was wrote a code in C++ and took the V8 engine. V8 engine is the engine that Chrome uses to compile the JavaScript. So he used this V8 engine to convert your JavaScript into the machine readable code, and then basically we use this node for backend programs like creating a REST API and a lot of other things. Uh, so on the next page about the Node.js. So as I told you, Node.js is a C++ program that embeds Chrome's V8 engine, the fastest JS engine in the world. So there are other engines as well used by Mozilla Firefox and Internet Explorer, but they are not as good as the Chrome V8 engine. Uh, Next is it is used to build RESTful APIs, yes, and yes, Node is a single-threaded application. So when we say a single-threaded application, it means that it basically runs a single process. So whenever request comes onto your server, it is basically uh, given to a background thread, and your application thread is basically ready for accepting the new request. So Node.js basically uses a synchronous non-blocking method because it does not block the request. So whenever, let's say, I want to visit, assuming Google uses Node.js for its backend, and let's say I'm visiting google.com. So whenever I go onto my browser and search google.com, what happens in the background, it sends a request onto the Google server, which we are assuming is a based on Node. Is based on Node. So basically, what Node does is it reads what browser URL you've requested for, and accordingly it will send you the content. So this happens at a time like a lot of people around the globe are right now searching on Google. So this happens like a lot of people are asynchronously at the same time simultaneously searching for something on Google. So the server of the Google has to uh, you know uh, support a lot of requests at the same time. So in this case, what Node does is it takes a request, sends it to some background worker, which basically tries to process at the same time. It will take another request, it will send it to some other background worker, and like this, a lot of background workers work together. And once the content that is to be sent to the user is ready, it will send back to the user. So this is asynchronous. What the other way is synchronous, which is used by PHP, Python, Java, and all other language based frameworks. So what happens in synchronous is basically there's a thread and there's a user. So let's say a user made a request onto your server, and now your server is waiting and processing the request given by the user. So basically that given thread is now waiting for the request to complete, like your server to process the um content what it wants to send to the user. It will process, it will then send it to the user using that thread. So until and unless the processing is not done for the content asked by the user, your that particular thread will wait. In Node.js this does not happen. It basically uh, passes your work to one of the worker, and it will start accepting another other requests that are coming. So this is the basically this is the asynchronous nature of Node, which is very useful. It basically you know um, can handle 2 times more the number of requests than a you know synchronous methods. Uh, Next is the architecture. Yeah, that this is what I explained. The architecture makes the node ideal for building IO intensive application. Yeah, so basically IO intensive means something that requires input output, or basically handling the database. So you have a database, you have a server, and servers connect to the database. So what you do is input output. You bring in data from the database and you send it to the user like this. Or let's say you have to read a file, you have to and send some data from the file to the user. So this is how IO operations work, and it is very good for such type of applications. But you should avoid using Node.js for CPU intensive application, like let's say image processing or video encoding or such stuff, because when you do such stuff, it actually requires entire thread to process it. And since Node is a single threaded application, it will occupy your entire thread until or unless the entire processing is done. So uh, basically you should not use it when you are doing such stuff. You should go for some other framework rather than using Node for CPU intensive applications. The so That's it with the Node. Now basically we'll start with installing Node.js onto our laptops, and before that I would suggest you guys to use Visual Studio Code, which is a very good code editor, and which is something I prefer. So I'll be using that. You guys are free to use Sublime or any other text editor you guys want, but I would suggest that you use Visual Studio Code. So just a second, I'll start sharing my screen. Any doubts so far? Anybody?
So there's a doubt in the
Yes.
chat section.
Yes. Yes. You can use Atom. There's no problem in using Atom. Okay. Uh, uh, starting. Just a second. I'll start sharing my. Um. Okay. So to basically install the node, uh, it is very simple. Just go on to node.js.org, and you'll have two versions over here. One is the LTS, which means the latest stable version, and the other one is the current version. So I would suggest you guys to go with LTS, as it is written over there, recommended for most of the users. But there's no harm in using the latest version also, because it has few latest features. But sometimes there might be bugs which you might not be able to solve. So I already have Node.js installed, but I'll just go ahead and install it again in front of you guys. So we just go ahead and download this. Okay. So just double click on it, and okay, keep clicking on next, accept the terms and conditions. Then select the folder where you want to install the node. um, I'll keep it this as it is. uh, yeah, okay. Next, then you want to keep all of these checked. Okay. You want to add it to your path. uh, okay, you want everything that is mentioned over here. Just click on next. Then don't click on this thing. We don't require this. So then click on next and click on install. So we'll wait for it to install. Okay. So installation has been completed successfully. Now to check if the Node.js has been successfully installed onto our PC or not, we just have to go on to our command line. So just type in cmd or PowerShell, whatever you want. Open it and type node -v, and it will print the current version of the node, which is what we installed right now, which is 14.16.0. And along with node we have a package manager. So now I'll explain about the package manager over here. So basically npm is basically node package manager. It is used to basically install third party packages which you might want to use in your projects. So there are a lot of third party packages uh, which we'll be using throughout the course. And basically it stores this data into a package.json file, which basically has a lot of other things as well, the entire metadata for your project. Let's say the name of the project, its version, its dependencies, and everything. So basically to install a package, we run npm install and then name of the package. To uninstall a package, we can type in npm uninstall and then name of the package, which will uninstall the package. And if you want to update your packages, let's say you have a dependency or a third party package that you want to upgrade, so you can type in npm update and then either name of the package, or you want to upgrade all the packages that are old. So whichever packages are old will be updated when you just type npm update. Okay, so this is the package manager basically used. There are other package manager as well, yarn, then learn, and a lot of others, but this is the most basic one and the most used one. Okay, so uh, now we'll create a very simple node project and run a hello script program on it. So to create a node project, it is very simple to create a node project. So I'll just go on to any of the folder you guys want, and on the search bar just type in cmd like this, cmd, enter, which will open your command prompt in that particular location. Now you want to create a project, so make a directory for that project by typing mkdir, or you can create a directory like this also, create a new folder, and even that is fine. So just type in make dir
Rishabh, one
and
second.
yes,
There is a doubt in the chat window.
yeah, sure. Okay. Um, can you tell me in what context are you asking? Why is this most used? The about I talk about the npm. Okay, Node. So basically, Node is used more, as I explained before, that it can handle request asynchronously. So it can handle request 2 times the normal synchronous server does. Basically, as I explained over here, just a second. Yeah. Uh, it basically it basically it is a non-blocking it uses a non-blocking method. So whenever a user sends a request onto your server, it sends it to some other worker at the back in the background, which processes the request. At the same time, it can accept other requests as well, which it again sends to some other background worker, and then when the request is ready to be sent to the user, it sends it to the user. So basically what this does is it can handle more number of requests at the same time, whereas other, like for example, we have php, or we have some python based, let's say Django. They do not handle requests asynchronously. They have a synchronous mode, which means that it uh, takes the request. There's a thread which takes a request from the user. It waits for the request to be processed by the computer, then it sends that request to the user, and then it will accept some other user which is trying to request something from the server. So this is a slow process, whereas the process that is used by Node is quite faster, and basically the benchmarks have shown that it is 2 times faster than the normal processes. Okay, the one that are synchronous. I hope. Okay, so yeah, so to create a project, we basically have to create a directory. I'll name it as test for now, and then we'll go into that directory by using the command cd. Cd means change directory. So cd, yeah. So now we're into the directory. So to create a node project, it is very simple. We have to use the node package manager. That is npm. Then we have to write init and then press enter. So now it will ask us a couple of questions. What we want our package to be named as. Package to be named as means name of our project. So basically, it restricts us to use small cases only, and there's a specific regex that we need to follow for naming our packages. So I would suggest using small cases, small case names only. So I'll keep it as it is, which is test, that it has suggested me by default. Next is the version of your project. So basically you can release a project with multiple versions, right? So you can just pass in the version number to keep a count, or you can keep it as it is if you want, if you're not publishing this package on the npm registry. So I'll keep it as 1.0.0. Second, now it is asking for a description. So whatever you want to write, like whatever the description. This is this, then entry point. So this is the entry point file. So basically, whenever let's say you are making this package as a module that can be used by other projects. Uh, if you remember, I talked about the libraries and packages, third-party libraries and packages. So whenever you create a package like that, you have to name this file as the entry point of your library. So this is the file that is going to be read the very first by other programs, and then all the other dependencies or other dependent files will be imported into this particular module. Okay, or yeah, like that. So for now we'll keep it as index.js only, because this is the name convention used by most of the projects, but you can name it whatever you want. You just make sure to change the name over here. Test command, this is the command that you would like to run for testing your script. So for now I'll just keep it empty. We'll come on to this later on. Git repository. So if you are using version control, uh, uh, um, uh, do you guys know what is a git or uh, version controlling? Anybody like? So okay, I'll explain it in very short. So git is nothing but it is a version control system. So what happens in git is you write some code, then you push it onto your repository, and then when basically it has versioning. So if you committed something at a particular time, it gives it a version, and then next time when you commit, it gives that part of the code as the new version. So like this, it basically versions your work, and then whenever you want to go back or look at your previous work, you can do that using version control, or you can collaborate. So basically, let's say two people are working on the same project. So one guy writes some part of the code, the other guy writes some other part of the code, and then both of them can basically uh, together work on the same code, and then they can push their work onto the repository one after the another, and then it handles merge conflicts and a lot of things. So this is basically out of the scope of this thing, but this is the basics of git. uh, so you have to just enter the url of your git repository, then keywords for a project. This is for npm registry if you want to publish your package. Author, it's your name or whatever, company name or whatever it is. Then the license, this is also the license that you are providing it, like what license you are providing to the end users, like whoever is using your uh, package or library, in case you are publishing it to the npm registry. So that's it. Now we'll type in yes, and that's it. Our project is ready now. So what this does is basically creates a normal package.json file. uh, I'll show it to you over here. Inside the test, yes, this is the package.json file. Now how many of you are going to use a different code editor apart from VS Code? Like are you guys coding along, like are you guys going to code along? uh, Anyone? Okay, so I'm assuming you guys are going to code along, but I'll be using VS Code. So if you guys want to download VS Code, you can just type in VS Code, and you can go into their official site over here, code.visualstudio.com, and you can download whichever package you want if you're using Mac. download it for Mac. If you're using Windows, like I'm doing, you guys can go ahead and download the Windows packages. And over here, there are different architectures. If you're having a 32-bit architecture system, you can go for 32-bit, and if you're having 64, you can go for 64. So I'm using EPL now. Okay, so you can use whatever you want basically, but I would like you can use whatever you want. There's no restriction because you basically what we are going to do is write a piece of text and then going to run it. So whatever you're comfortable with, it is fine. There's no problem in that. Okay, so you can go ahead and download the code editor, whichever you like. Next is uh, okay. So to open up Visual Studio Code, there are two ways. Either you can just right click and click on Open with Code, or you can open up your command prompt, which I have over here already. Just type in code and then dot. Dot refers to this current directory. So this will open up our VS Code, and this is our package file that we created previously. So now, since we've mentioned as our entry point file as index.js, we can just create a new file and name it as index.js. Now, to test uh, our code, I'll just basically write I just a console hello world and show you how we can run our JavaScript files. So you can just type in console.log hello world. So this is how you log onto the console and just save it. And to run this file, we have to do nothing but simply type in load and then name of the file index.js and see it prints hello world. So if you guys are coding along, if you guys are coding along, can you just tell me if you guys are done till here, like with installing Node and everything, or should I wait?
Y'all can use the raise hand feature for this.
Yeah. Okay. So
Or also,
I'm
I
also,
guess you can continue.
yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is how you basically log onto the console. It is used for debugging most of the time. So in Node.js, basically we have lot of uh, global variables. So let's say if I want to print the current directory of this particular file, I can do console.log then underscore underscore directory name. So this will basically print the current directory name. Uh, this is what it has printed, which is the current directory. You can also print current file name by writing like this. So these are few global variables. There are a lot of others. You can refer the official site of Node to uh, get the list of all the possible variables. Uh, Next is global objects. Yeah, creating and loading a module. So in order to create a module, we have to export something from a script. So let's say I have a variable and I'll define it as let a equals to 0. Okay, and I want to create this index file as a module that can be used in some other file. So what I'll do is module dot export equals to a. Okay, so basically like this we can export this thing, and if I create another file, name it test.js, and let's say I import index over here. So const a equals to require, and then just type in dot or dot slash index file. So this is how you import a module by using keyword request. This is ES5 syntax. Okay, there are a lot of other syntax like ES6, then ES next, which basically uses keyword called as import and export and thing. But currently Node.js does not support that directly. We have to use Webpack and Babel or some other transpilers to basically transpile ES6 or some other um, versions of JavaScript to run on Node. So in this, we are going to use ES5 only, and we are not going to concentrate on other versions of JavaScript. So yeah, so we can basically require this thing over here, and then we can let's just console it like this. And sorry, yes. Oh, sorry. I'm running a wrong file. Yeah. So what I was doing was I was running index.js file, which is not printing anything. So I'll run this file, which is the test file, which is basically uh, importing the variable from our index file and printing it over here. Um, just a second. Sorry, push.a equals to a. Okay, just give me a second. Yeah. I'm so sorry, guys. Basically, I have a habit of using the ES6 syntax. So basically, it is nothing but like this: module.exports equals to this particular variable. Yeah. So now it has printed as 0. So basically, this is uh, not this is a very old syntax that is used right now in Node. Usually people use TypeScript nowadays. So like let's say if we guys want to use TypeScript, we can also I'll show you how to use TypeScript in this project also. So it is very simple, uh, because it is comfortable, and it does lot of you know type checks. So you can make less errors when you have types defined instead of them not being defined, because sometimes when you're writing a code you might forget what is the type of that particular variable at this point of time. So that's where TypeScript helps you. So I'll show you how to set up your project with TypeScript as well. And uh, we've uh, you know created a project with JavaScript also. So um, to uh, you know to use TypeScript into our project, we have to install TypeScript as a dependency. So as we guys were talking about here, uh, that we use third-party packages, or TypeScript is a third-party package created by Microsoft. So Microsoft had introduced TypeScript, which is very useful, and actually this is how the JavaScript should have been ideally, but unfortunately it is not. So when you use a TypeScript, what happens is first you have to transpile a code into JavaScript, and then you can run it, right? So I'll show you how to install TypeScript into your project. So to install TypeScript, first what we have to do is just write npm install TypeScript. So it will now install TypeScript as a dependency into our project. Yeah. So it is now installed. As you can see over here, TypeScript. To basically create, to use a TypeScript, we have to create a configuration file, which is used by TypeScript to transpile our TypeScript code into JavaScript code. So to create that config file, we'll write a command inside our script tag. So now coming on to this particular script tag, uh, whatever command you type over here, this is a key and this is the command. So whatever key you type over here and a particular command related to it can be executed using npm run, and then name of this particular keyword. Okay, so we'll just create a simple keyword calling it as config, which is required only for once, since I don't want to install TypeScript globally, that is globally onto my PC. So I'll explain you what are global installations and you know uh, project based installations after this. But for now, we'll just you know create a configuration file for our project using TypeScript. So to create a configuration file, it is very simple. We just have to have tsc hyphen hyphen init and just have to run this command. So to run this command, we'll type in npm, then we'll type run config. So now we have our ts config file over here, which has a lot of properties, but we don't need all of these, and we don't even have to understand most of the properties given over here. There are a few of them which we'll be using. That is the output directory. We'll name it as dist. So this is the name convention that is used to name your output directory for a TypeScript transpile code, and the root directory is usually src. So So now what we'll do is create two folders. One is src folder, and this folder will be automatically created when we transfer our JavaScript code into TypeScript. So basically we need to keep all our code inside this src directory for TypeScript to transfer our code. So we'll go ahead and create a directory, name it as src, and we just drag our this file, index file, into src, and then just rename it to ts. Okay, so uh, I guess that's it. We don't need to do anything else inside this file. This is all that is required. All other options are like allow just so like if you want to allow JavaScript file, or if you want to type check for do type checking for JavaScript, and you know these are very no, not required at this stage. Uh, so we'll just go ahead with uh, this much file. Uh, cool. Uh, Now we can remove this part, and if I type in the console.log hello world, and now if I try to run this TypeScript file, our Node.js compiler will be able to run this TypeScript file as well. But whenever you use some TypeScript specific syntax like import, export, or type definition, like defining like this, let a of type string equals to some value. Now if I run this file, it will throw an error because Node won't be able to compile this. So to run this script using Node, we have to use a TypeScript compiler. So to do that, it is very simple. Go to our package.json. Then we have to create a command, a building command. We'll name it as build, and then tsc. That's it, and nothing else. So what this will do is take our TypeScript file. Since we've mentioned our root directory as src, it will take all the files inside our src directory, and then transfer it into a JavaScript and create a new directory which is named as dist, and create all our JavaScript files inside there. So now I'll just run npm run build, done. So as you guys can see, we have a JavaScript file, and it has converted our TypeScript, which was typed over here like this, to this. And now this file we can run using Node. So to basically run our script, we every time have to build, and then we can execute it. So instead of doing that, uh, if you guys want to directly run your TypeScript, there's a module named as ts node, ts-node, which basically doesn't require of creating output directory, but it can directly run your code using your TypeScript. But it what it does is it transfers your code inside your memory and then runs it. So you are not advised to use that particular dependency in your production, because inside production, when you have a large code base, and whenever load the entire code base into your memory and then you run it, it takes a lot of memory, as it is not reliable, because you can face memory out, you can exceed memories, and A lot of things can happen in production, and so basically it is advised to build your code when you go for production. But when you are testing it, it is okay if you use TS node while you are testing your code. So to use TS code, it is simple. We just have to install it as a dependency, like uh, npm install TS node, then that's it. So this will import TS node. Now to run this index file, we can create a script command, that is start, and then we can type in ts hyphen node and then name of our TypeScript file, which is src slash index.ts. So now if you want to run our this file, you can run, like, I'll just console this so that we get some output. Okay, so we'll just type in npm run start. Start is basically the command that we've defined over here, and this is the command ts hyphen node, which is the name of the dependency that we've installed, and after that we have location to our file, which is src, which is over here. This is a relative location, src, and then index file, and then we just do this, and then it prints hello world. And if we were to you know build this, we can just create that build command over here. We can just add it over here as well, like जितना भी add करना है, you guys can add whatever commands you want. There's no limitation to that. So we just add it over here for building, and start will be for our beta test or whatever the testing thing. So to build, we'll just type in ts. That's it. Also remember, yeah. So I was talking about the global variables and the project level modules. So whenever you install a module at the global level, it basically gets installed in your global node modules, which is created where your Node.js has been installed in the location where your Node.js is. So basically, you can use that module, uh, inside your command line. Like if I had installed ts node globally, then I wouldn't have to create a script over here. I could have directly done, like, I could have directly done it like this: ts hyphen node src slash index dot ts. So right now it tells me that ts node is not a recognized as an internal or external command. So now let's say I want to install this ts node as a uh, globally. So what I'll do is npm install ts node, and then just uh, if hyphen g as one more parameter to our npm package manager. So this will basically install our ts node at the global level. So usually I don't prefer this way, and I would suggest not to install modules globally. uh, like most of the time it can be solved using installing your modules on your project only, but sometimes it is required. That time it is fine, but I would suggest not to install modules globally, because sometimes you have files that are required inside your project. Then it gets difficult. Like in our case right now, if I install this ts node globally, it won't be able to read our TypeScript config file. So if I was to make some changes in this file, and if I run it using my global module, what happens is that it will consider a ts config file that is default given in this module and not consider my ts config file, which is not what we want. So when we do this thing over here and we've installed it as a dependency into our project, it will use our configuration file over here. Uh, So that is the main benefit over here, that you can, this is not this does not happen in all the cases, but right now over here I'm not going to install this because it will conflict with the ts config file that is already there in ts node module if I install it globally. So if you guys want to like install, you can install TypeScript globally, which is okay, which doesn't you know conflict. So this is now installed globally. Now I can directly run tsc, which will compile our project. So if I just delete this, let's say, if I run tsc, and you can see our project is compiled over here. So this is the difference between global installation and project level installation. Uh, that's it for the basics of Node for now. So next we'll take a 10-minute of short break, and then we'll start with installing Express and with our backend code using Node.js. Okay.